Boom, we're live. Friday, a few minutes late, not too bad. Hope everyone is good. Folks, we're just going to get right into it this evening. Maximize the time. All right, it's 42. What's good, y'all? This is Cee Certified Brewhead, and welcome to episode 42 of Beer and Other Shit, the podcast, Adjunct Series Quarantine Edition this evening, all the way from, I believe, Denver. I hope I got that right. Colorado. We have Skip from Weldwerks. What's going on, brother?
Hey, how you doing, man?
Good, man. Good to meet you. You're in Denver.
Yeah.
You're in Denver, right?
We're about 45 minutes outside of Denver, but yeah.
Okay.
Denver for people who aren't familiar with Colorado, Denver works. Greeley.
Okay, cool. I wasn't too sure when we were there. People were saying you were just sort of in. They were maybe because we weren't from there. They were just like, oh yeah, they're around the corner. Okay, sweet. Yeah. So man, we're gonna have a bunch to talk about this evening, but let's just kick it off. What are you drinking there? Tell us about that.
So I'm actually drinking some new Anthem Lower Haight. It's one of their IPAs. It's like a mashup Indian Pale Ale, mashup of West Coast and the hazy. We actually just finished brewing a collab with them. I just sent them out a minute ago and sit down and talk to you.
Nice. Are they're local as well, obviously, like they're in the area?
No, they're from Wilmington, North Carolina, and they're just making really good hazy IPA. And he happened to be out here. He wanted to go on a ski trip and talk a little bit, and so we ended up just brewing a beer while he was out here.
Nice. That's dope.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, fun, man. Fun day.
Yeah, man. I love that. That's great. I love seeing the collabs. I hadn't heard of them, actually. I guess
you should look into them. They're making some awesome IPA.
Okay. What's it called again?
New Anthem.
New Anthem. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll check them out.
Look them up.
Yeah, bro. What's let's get into your beer history, man. Tell us about it. How did you get into it? What's the deal?
So honestly, after college, I wanted to be a distiller, and so I got into distilling. I took an internship learning how to distill distill whiskey, and I wanted to make bourbon. And I kind of, I was doing that for a little bit, and I, kind of was homebrewing a lot at the time, and I kind of was just like, you know what, I don't think the whiskey industry is for me, so I'm gonna switch it up. And I got a job at a brewery. Doing sales actually.
Okay.
And I would get done with my sales day, and the owner of the brewery would be cleaning kegs or something. So I'd ask him if I could do it for him. Started cleaning kegs, turned into cleaning tanks, turned into brewing beer, turned into lead brewer position, turned into writing recipes, turned into years later I'm working at Weldwerks, and they hired me on to run the barrel program here and kind of write recipes and work with we have a really big team of creative people across the board, whether it's a salesperson or a taproom person who doesn't necessarily know how to write a beer recipe but knows how to have a great idea. Okay. And so we're working with all sorts of people to just figure out how to take an idea from someone's brain and turn it into an awesome product. So that's kind of what I've been doing. Yeah.
I love that. So you were saying that your title now is, I guess you sort of moved up the ranks over the years and become the...
Yeah.
What was the title? I'm sorry, you did tell me before.
So I'm innovation and wood cellar lead. So
all right.
Basically I run all of our barrel program. Yeah, the fun stuff. I write collabs. I write recipes. I hang out and talk to people all day. It's pretty much what I do.
Hey, man, you earned it, though. That's how you got to do it.
Yeah. Started from the bottom.
I love that. Hey, man, it's a cool story. Like, not everybody sort of really goes through that, I would imagine. There might be some folks who kind of skip the queue a bit there and don't pay their dues as such, I would imagine. That
definitely.
Yeah, maybe they're advanced home brewers or something. But I think there's something to be said about everything you said, going from, like, cleaning to cellarman work to brewing to head, but so on and so forth. It's kind of cool. There's nothing you can't do, type of thing.
Right, exactly. And that's the big thing is knowing how to be able to not only just fix any machine, but run any machine. If someone happens to have to step out or something, I can step in anyone's position pretty much. And that's kind of helps everybody out.
Yeah, it's valuable, man. Tell us about the history of Weldwerks. I only... we were talking about this over the email chain as we were figuring this out, but for folks who might not know, we went to GABF in 2018, I guess. And people were telling me, you know what it's like, you go somewhere new and they're like, yeah, you need to check out this and this, and I don't know, there's a million different breweries. I'm like, yeah, cool, we'll figure it out when we get there.
Sure.
And there was arguably the biggest line, or one of the biggest lines in GABF was for you guys. So because we had the media pass, we were waiting in the end of the line. Someone comes out, goes, no, you can just go to the Brewers line. I'm like, yes. So because of that, I would just go and rap, boom, and they give you
awesome.
like an ounce or whatever. But I got to basically try most of what you guys had, and I was extremely impressed, even for the tiny volume that they give you to actually sample it. So unfortunately, that was literally our last day in the city, so we left the next day. So I didn't get to come out to the brewery or to look into you guys any further. But yeah, man, I'd love to hear more about it. Tell us about the history of the brewery. And,
so the history. Neil Fisher is our head brewer and co-founder, and so he was just a really big home brewer, and he was, really great at it. He would always win a ton of, local homebrew competitions, and he started basically a little brewery in his garage. I mean, he had actual full-size barrels in his garage, and he started like a club called the Garage Club, the Greeley Garage Club, homebrewing club, and one of the people who was in it is our other co-founder, Colin Jones, and they kind of made a pact that if Neil went to Big Beer's Belgian Barley Wines Festival, which is up in Breckenridge every year in Colorado, it's kind of a bigger festival in Colorado. If he had placed a silver or better at this homebrew competition that they hold up there every year, that they would start a brewery together. And Neil took home 2 golds for barrel-aged beers at that competition, and so they kind of actually took it, and Colin Jones kind of forced Neil to hold up his end of the bargain, and they started a brewery together. And we started out slow. They opened up with 4 beers on tap, and small 15-barrel system with 2 fermenters and 1 bright tank. And now we're working with 19 fermenters up to the 90-barrel fermenter. We have 10 bright tanks, and we have a barrel program of over 500 oak barrels in the building. So they're really methodical about how they were going to do things. They looked at properties that they could rent to own. So we own all of our property. We own all of our equipment. We don't have any bank loans. Well, maybe a couple here and there, but nothing huge. Yeah, exactly. So they basically wanted to build a sustainable building or a company, and one of the big things they wanted to invest in right away is just their employees. So they hired Kristen Popchef, who is our COO, and man, she's just one of the best in the business, and she's able to find other people to fit roles and create roles that might not necessarily, like even my job doesn't necessarily exist at every single brewery, but it brings a different layer to it and knows that this is what, Skip's really good at. But we have, our lead brewer, he's just excellent at brewing beer and getting things done. And our production manager can look at a schedule and just make everything work in, half the time. So they're just really good at putting together really good teams of people and also just trusting us to do our jobs and do it really well. And I think that's part of the growth trajectory that's made us go from, the first year, I think they did 800 barrels, and we're going to do about, by the end of this year, we're projecting about 1,400 to 1,500 barrels this year.
Nice. And what's the time frame then from when it started to now?
So they opened up in 2015, the actual brewery.
Okay.
Yeah, we're only 5 years old, and we're I mean, I don't know this for a fact, but I like to think, or I like to say, just based on the numbers that I can find, that we have the biggest barrel-aged stout program in the state of Colorado. And like I said, we've become kind of well known for our thing, but one of the big things that's always pushed us is our invitational festival, and we bring some of the best 40 of the best breweries in the country every year to Little Greeley, Colorado, which is kind of a cow town outside of Denver. And we're able to bring really, really good brewers in and have a really big festival. And it's kind of like a weird thing to see, living in Greeley for so long, to see some of the heavy hitters in beer hanging out in Greeley where I hang out and stuff. So that's been kind of cool for us.
That's dope. Did you have to, I imagine that annual festival, you might have had to do that virtual or do something different?
So last year we took the year off just because of it. We didn't want to. We looked at the virtual thing. It just seems for a festival, it's not the same. I mean, for our festival, we require you to send either a head brewer, a decision maker. So that way, we wanted to make an intimate festival, so you could talk to somebody who's making, calling shots at these breweries, and you can actually talk to the guy who made the beer and say like, well, what was your thought about this? And so we just couldn't find a way to do that well. I think other people found really good ways, and it was fun to be a part of some of those other festivals. We just couldn't do it at the time. We were just trying to manage all the rules changing all the time in Colorado, and just trying to make sure that we weren't gonna. A big thing for them during this past year was let's not lose any employees. Let's not have to furlough anybody. Let's just keep cranking out beer and finding a way to keep the ship growing, and we were able to do that this year, which was surprising, honestly.
Right. That was kind of my next question. Was like, how have you guys been throughout? So it's been pretty decent.
Oh, it's been really good, honestly. We still had growth this year again. We were able to add in another set of tanks. We just stood up a couple of new 90-barrel fermenters. So we've been able to grow. We were able to. The room I'm sitting in right now is our barrel room. We were able to add in a brand new space. We were able to add in new brewers, add in more time for brewing. So it's been honestly surprisingly a good year for us considering what was happening in the world.
Amazing. Do you think it's? I noticed you guys have a pretty in-depth web store as well. Like it sounds like you make it really easy for people to get your products. Did you have that before?
No, we didn't. That was something that we've talked about doing all these kind of like, let's do pickups or online ordering or this or that, and I think COVID has kind of forced our hand to step up some of our games, and it's been good for us. Honestly, I think we were able to step up our web store. We stepped up our web presence in general. We were able to figure out how to do pull up to go beers, drive by to go. It's really just been kind of like a year of literally just learning how to adapt to things that like have already been ideas and just be able to actually force to execute them. And we've done a really good job of it. I mean, we went from being able to do, keg beers to all of a sudden everything has to be 100% canned. So that's a toll on our packaging team. Yeah. And they were able to take that in stride and figure out how to divide labor and divide and conquer it. And they did it really, really well.
That's sick. Do you guys do any crowlers and stuff for things?
So we do pretty much 100% can, 16-ounce cans, and then we do 500 milliliter bottles for our barrel aged stouts, and some of our other like high ABV stouts. We'll do it in 500 milliliter bottles. But yeah, we don't do any crowlers. We don't do any growler fills. We just do cans. So it's just a huge stress on our packaging team when we had to go all to go.
Yeah, imagine. Jesus. I mean, like, could you have repurposed some of the like tap room stuff into that packaging kind of world to keep them?
Oh, we totally did. We looked at. I mean, so our now inventory manager. I mean, he was a tap room employee about a year ago. He was still running the tap room, and we have a guy in the packaging line who's full-time packaging, who is in our tap room part-time. We have a couple of sales guys who are in the tap room. We kind of try to find ways to like I said, take advantage of a shitty situation. Yeah. And COVID, like I said, no one's glad it's here, but we were able to look inwards and go, well, how do we keep a full staff of people? Well, let's repurpose some of these people. Some of them have talents that they've expressed interest in exploring, and we were able to look at them and use them to our advantage and their advantage as well. So it's been fun.
That's very cool. I love to hear that, man. That's great. It's I feel like it's been a somewhat common thread from the breweries that I speak to, as far as that sort of some of the growth. There's some that are getting by. There's some that are doing decent. There's some that are like sounds like what you guys are doing are growing. What's the general vibe in Colorado? Like, more like you guys, or is it a mix?
I do think there are some people who are able to kind of take advantage of this situation and figure out ways of doing it. I do think it's kind of all over the place. It's kind of like anywhere else. I think that there are some people who just can't, they weren't packaging beer to go, and all of a sudden they're like, the only way you can make money is packaged beer to go. So that's just going to be tough on that small local, that they're a neighborhood brewery, and all of a sudden it's tough on them. And so I think that they've found ways of doing it. We haven't seen like a mass shutdown of people. We haven't seen, I wouldn't say like hundreds of breweries have closed in the last year, but we've definitely seen, it's just been different. And, Bierstadt Lager House in Denver is like one of the prime examples of just adapting and figuring out how to make it work. So, the owners of this place, they make 100% traditional lager, German lager beer, to the best. They decoct everything. They're doing, long aging, filter presses, and like just perfect pilsners all the time. And they said for a long time they'll never can their beer. Well, they had to, and they did a really good job, and they're crushing it. And I think it's just kind of showing, why Colorado is one of the best states in America making craft beer, because we can all adapt really, really well. And I'm kind of really, overall, I'm really proud of our state, just seeing everybody adapt really well. And, we haven't seen too many shutter. So it's been kind of impressive.
That's cool, man. I definitely would agree. I mean, Colorado is one of my favorite places in the States as far as like beer is concerned. It's just insane. Like, not only is it beautiful, and the people are cool as shit. Yeah. I couldn't believe how cool everybody was. It reminded me a lot. It's funny, like we're in Montreal here, so it's like we're right above Vermont. When the borders were open, we would go to Vermont, every other month.
Yeah.
And they were always the coolest people. And when we went to Colorado, we were there just beforehand. And we were telling them we're going to Colorado, and everyone was like, "Oh, everybody had a Colorado story. Oh, my brother lives there. I go to Boulder every year. You need to go." It was like,
of course,
I could see the cross between both culturally. Like, there seemed to be a similar, just like maybe it's just people who live in beautiful ass mountains or something. They're just cool as hell, and coming with that is great beer, great food. It was just one of my favorite experiences, to be honest, in beer. Period. So I definitely can see that. So it makes me very happy to hear that not only are we continuing to make fire, but the breweries are staying afloat and kicking ass at the same time.
Oh yeah, it's been crazy. And I do think there is something to say that, like, when you do live in a place as beautiful as Colorado, just looking at the sun setting over the mountains, like, I don't care how long you've been here, man, it just makes you feel good.
Never gets out.
I think if you're angry, if you're angry and you live in Colorado, maybe just look to the west a little bit more or something, and you'll be happy.
That's so true, man. I guess particularly out there where you guys, like on the Front Range, which we sort of learned. We started in Durango, and they sent us like all the way kind of through. But it was extra, right? Because it was like when we got to Durango, we're like, "What the hell is this?" We didn't know the geography at all. Yeah. So we were like, "This looks like, I don't know, like a Roadrunner cartoon or something. Like, what's happening?"
Sure. Yeah.
And then they were like, no, like 60 miles that way is that little point where there's like 5 states or 4 states that join at one little point. And then as we kind of went east, I guess it was, right? We went through like Grand Junction, Ouray was wild. And then
so you're going northwest.
Northwest. Okay, so we went north. Yeah. Then we ended up in Breckenridge, which was insane. And then we came through Colorado Springs, Fort Collins, and Denver. So that was like 2 weeks.
Oh, I'm sorry, northeast. You're right. Northeast.
Northeast. It was kind of that way.
Yeah.
And
I
know
going up in that way, through Breckenridge.
Yeah. And we
swung. It's insane.
Yeah, dude. It was just so crazy, and seeing the best part for us, I know, like on the tourist perspective, was seeing the scenery, was seeing the landscape change. Just crazy. Yeah. Like the whole time.
It's if you haven't seen Colorado in person, you need to, just because when I first moved out here, I looked at things and I was like, oh, I've seen pictures. It's not that cool. And then you get here and you're like, this is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's just every day it's mind blowing.
Like, it's really cool to hear that it doesn't get old even if you live there.
And if it gets old, then maybe you've been here too long, or you just need an attitude adjustment.
Yeah, it was totally. Again, I could not see, like, everyone was just always in a good mood. Now I think about it, you're right. Everyone was just always chilling. There was never really anything wild. And even just in Denver, where you can just be in a world-class major city, and then you're just looking at, you can see the mountains from there. Like, it was just, doesn't matter where you went, you were just looking at something crazy all the time. It was just constantly.
And that's like just the crazy thing is, like I said, my window faces the mountains in my bedroom, and at nighttime you can just see the mountains, and it's just like, wow, how could you be mad at that, you know?
Right? Yeah, man, that's crazy. That just reminded me. So the first time I heard of you guys that I specifically recall, we were going to Breckenridge, I believe, from Grand Junction, and that's when the scenery really changed. And we were before. You can do it anyway. I already took it. But we went through and saw Troy at Casey. Because I'd heard a lot about him. And when we got there, you guys had just done a collab called the Trans Mountain Diversion, I believe.
Oh yeah, we still do that one.
You still do it? Oh, that shit was insane. So like, obviously at the time I was like, we didn't have as much haze up here in Canada. So whenever we were going to the States, I was like, I need that. And that was insane. I couldn't believe it. Like how good that was. Because the funny part, I guess, because you go to somewhere like Durango and the breweries were very much catered to that typical blonde, amber, porter, that real traditional standard type of stuff that isn't super exciting for people, craft beer folks. So I didn't have anything that blew my mind until I got there. And then when I had that, he was like, yeah, you need to check that out. So I was like, all right. So from then I was like locked in and ready to see. So to sort of like pivot a bit, being that you guys are like known as like the haze masters of, is that still accurate? I know you sort of work there and stuff, but you could probably speak to it. Like, would you say that Weldwerks are known as the haze lords out there?
We definitely in that conversation. I think I don't like to crown myself or us anything, but I do think that we do make top tier beers. We were one of the first to do it, and Neil Fisher, our head brewer, he was able to kind of find this recipe, and he was one of the first people to really share it.
Right.
Share what everyone else was doing. I mean, Alchemist clearly, Heady Topper was one of the originals, and Trillium and Treehouse have been doing it for way before us, but they kind of were really secretive about what they were doing, and Neil was one of the first champions of being like, hey, this is what we did. I don't know if it's going to work for everybody, but this is what we did. Here's our recipe. It got printed in Zymergy magazine. And I think that kind of propelled us into a different light with just being able to share something that at that time was super secretive. He was sharing what yeast strain he was doing, what water profiles he was doing, how to calculate water profiles for not only home brewers, but also for brewers. And, if you email us today and ask us, hey, what's your take on this, and this, we're open book source to everybody, home brewer or, commercial brewer. We don't have any secrets in this building, and we love to share them with people because we think that's part of the reason why we got to where we are is just being open about it, but also being super open about, hey, we made we're not perfect, we're gonna make a bad beer, and like, hey, we want you to enjoy it too. So like I said, I wouldn't say we're the haze lords, but I would say we're one of the early adapters, and we learned how to do it really well, really fast, and we were able to capitalize on that. Right. On that kind of initial rush that came out. But yeah, I mean, if someone else wanted to call us the haze lords, I may not argue with you. But
well, I mean,
that's your words, not mine.
That's my words, and I'll own that because that was my experience. Was that the best haze essentially that I had out there was from you guys. Once again,
sure,
still didn't get. Hey man, it was a pleasure. It was just glorious, and I only had less than that of every beer, but I had all the juicy bits extra, sure. All that shit. It was just super, super impressive. And I think even back then it wasn't as wide. When I say like New England IPAs weren't as widespread as they are now, which almost seems strange because I want to say in Colorado specifically during that time, I found it kind of difficult to get what I was after.
Sure. I mean, like I said, so at that time it would have been what year you said 2018. So
2018,
I mean, we'd only been doing hazy IPAs for 2 years at that point.
Okay.
And that's we were still kind of ahead of the curve. We had a couple other people. Odd 13 was making really great. Still are. All these people are still are. Fiction Beer Company down in Denver, who's their head brewer is now owns Knotted Root, who's making killer awesome beer up in the Netherlands, up in the mountains, doing hazy beer up there. And then Cerebral, Sean and his team have been doing it great since day one too. So, you know, I think all the people who were doing it earlier still really doing a good job of making hazy IPAs. Just kind of everyone else kind of caught up. And I think Colorado now, if you come here, I'm sure you couldn't walk into a brewery that you couldn't find a hazy IPA at. So,
and a quality one at that, which was.
Oh yeah, I mean that's the one thing with the barrier to entry in Colorado brewing is you have to make quality beer. That's it.
Right. Yeah, that was definitely that was exactly my experience. I found like I said, in the western side, it wasn't anywhere near as good as the Front Range side.
Yeah.
Until probably you got to like Breckenridge, it started to pick up around Grand
Sure.
Junction. But once again, it was a different market. But once that was 2.5 years ago almost. So things changed.
I mean, there's people making beer all throughout the Front Range. The Front Range is definitely
like
just
the leader, right?
I think people think it, and people look at Colorado, and it's a huge state, but the Front Range, you know, is pretty small. You could drive from, you know, the top of the Front Range up in Fort Collins all the way down to Colorado Springs in about 2 hours, and that consists of most of the Front Range. And between that, there's, you know, a couple hundred great breweries that are just, you know, they might be small, they might be big, all different sizes, but they're all just making killer good beer, and it's kind of fun to be able to be a part of that and be in kind of like, you know, a hub of it. And, you know, for us to be, you know, somebody that people look at to us as leaders to be a part of that, it's just crazy for, I think, all of us. I don't think there's a single person here who takes that for granted. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, man, that's really cool that people are aware of that and definitely like cognizant of that. But in Vermont, just actually, this is the question now you mentioned it, I noticed that my friends there, because they're surrounded by so much beer, like incredible beer, and they are like 3 hours from Boston, I guess. So there's a lot of traffic coming through, so they easily get their hands on, like you said, Treehouse and Trillium and all the good stuff coming from there. I find that they are almost like good beered out. Like my friend will always be sending me photos of like some cocktails he's making, because he's like, man, if I have to have another hazy IPA, I'm going to lose it. Have you guys got to that point yet, or are you still kind of like, I mean, I know you're obviously in the industry, so it's maybe not the right person to ask, but you know what I mean?
No. We are a company full of very eccentric drinkers. So, you know, a lot of us are big bourbon fans. We drink lots of bourbon. You know, that could be between, you know, Jake, our marketing person who you spoke with, Neil, our head brewer, is a huge bourbon fan. I drink my fair share of bourbon. But then you have people like Colin Jones and Kristen Popchef, who I mentioned earlier, who are big cocktail fans, and they like to see. But we also like to drink all those things because we think that we can take something from that space and bring it into what we're doing. And so I think the day that we get bored of beer is on us, because we're not looking for the next thing that excites us. And all of us are always looking from any sort of industry of, even if it's, you know, Monster Energy drink, what flavors are they making? Right. Just to keep an eye on what they're doing. And the day, maybe hazy IPA kind of always stays the same. So reach for something else, but also let's keep it creative and make sure that we're doing our jobs and staying, you know, Derek, our production manager, loves wine. Patrick, our lab, you know, we love all sorts of things, and that's kind of part of the fun. I mean, I could tell you, when I'm done working a long day, I go home and I drink tequila or mezcal. I mean, you know, that's just, we're not stuck on beer. And I think that kind of opens our brains to come back to work and create a great beer again, you know?
That's really smart. I like that approach. So on that note, can you speak to the type of stuff that you guys are making, as far as, because even when I was checking out the website, like you guys are pretty much do most styles. It was more eclectic than I thought, based on the preconception that you guys were the Haze Lords. So like you have way more available.
So I mean, the big thing for us is to staying interesting. You know, we'll always try to, if there's something going on in the beer industry in general, like smoothie sour, we'll throw our hat in the ring and see what we can add to that space. But a big thing for us is, again, just making sure everyone that works here is super excited and happy. And you know, a big thing for our brewers is like they get burnt out on just brewing hazy IPA every day. So we go to them a lot, and they always want to brew classic styles. And, you know, in classics, people, like you said, people don't think of Weldwerks as, oh, they can make a really good classic style, but we do. I mean, our brewers are world-class brewers from, you know, top to bottom of our roster of people. they're going to make any style that they want to make. They're going to absolutely crush it. And I honestly think that if you look at like we just released our a triple and traditional Belgian triple, and it was made by one of our brewers, and I guarantee you he took more care into that beer than anything else that he brews. And we have like our lab manager Patrick wants to brew. He wanted to brew a Belgian dark strong. I bet you that's going to be a world-class Belgian dark strong. One of our shift brewers wanted to brew an alt beer. So we're all over the place, but it's part of it is just to keep everybody excited about what they're doing, but also just kind of just see what everyone wants to try. And I think people are super surprised when they walk in our door and hear that, Hefeweizen is one of our number one selling beers of all time.
Really?
That's super surprising.
I would not have picked that. Definitely.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so would you say that a lot of the traffic that you get are from people coming in there because they'd heard about the haze and stuff?
I would say that local traffic is very big. We're still a very big local place, and we like to cater to those local people as much as we want to cater to the people driving up from Denver, as much as we want to cater to the people from out of state, out of country, who've just heard that we make really good hazy beer. But we also want you to walk out the door and be like, wow, I didn't have a bad beer at Weldwerks, whether it was fruited sour or, alt beer or anything else, Pilsner even. We take very big pride in our Pilsner. I mean, brewers will fight about how our Pilsner, comes out and what changes they want to make to tweak it to make it better. Or even our barrel-aged stouts. So yeah, we're known for a couple of styles, whether it's our hazy IPA or our barrel-aged stout. But we want you to come in here and experience it and see that we're way more than that.
Yeah, I like that. That's really dope. Speaking of the stouts, I do recall at JBF there was one or two like crazy, like 11%, like Mexican stouts or something like that. Can you speak to the barrel? I know you said you got over 500 barrels. When they talk about not just the stouts, but any sours or just anything you're doing with that.
Sure. So so our barrel program is, like I said, it's massive. But for the most part, it is barrel aged stout. So Medianoche is our base, kind of our base-ish barrel aged stout.
Okay.
Like I said, we've done plenty of different versions of it, between vanilla, peanut butter cup, all the way to coconut and all sorts. We've just done everything with it. But that won a GABF medal in 2017 for won gold medal for wooden barrel aged strong stout. And so since then it kind of earned its place in the books as one of the best barrel aged stouts in the country at that time. I still believe it's up there. But for the sour beer, we don't really have too much. We have a couple sour barrels that we keep here and there. We do have a collab with Jester King out in Austin, Texas, that we're working on that we think is coming close to completion. It's been aging between fooders, barrels, and stainless for the last almost 2 years now. We've been just kind of trying to figure it out. My background is sour beer. I worked at a Black Project down in Denver for a while. So I have a soft spot for sour beer, barrel-aged or mixed culture, mixed fermented beer. Neil Fisher, our head brewer, has a soft spot for it. Our lead brewer, Nick, has so all of us love that beer. We just don't know what we can add to that space in Colorado. I mean, between people like Black Project, Crooked Stave, Troy Casey out at Casey Brewing that you had mentioned earlier, there's just so many really, Andy Parker and his team at Avery that just there's so many great Sean Bootram at Cerebral. Those guys, there's just so many great sour beer producers in our state that it's just like, what can we add to that space in the mixed ferment? And we haven't been able to figure out what's the right way for us to approach it to make it Weldwerks, So we really kind of stay away from that space. So we have 500 barrels, but I would say probably of the 500 plus oak barrels, probably 10 or 15 of them or something else. Right. It's pretty much we're just kind of staying in our lane for the barrel stuff.
Okay, hey man, that's good. That's self-awareness, and it makes sense. I like that reasoning, that it's sort of like, what can we contribute, and you're not sort of just trying to do it for the sake of doing it. So I like that a lot. I was just checking to see if I did try the Medianoche. I didn't have any check-ins on tap that I saw there, but there was like It felt like there was like 100 different ones. Maybe not 100, but I just kept scrolling, and there was all these different variants. So like,
yeah, we've done tons of them. I mean, again, we look at everything, and even if it's been in a barrel for 20 months, everything's our playground and it's our experimentation. And you know, some things don't ever even see the light of day, and it's tough, but it's one of those things where to be at a high level, you have to be able to just realize that like you have to play at a high level. And so we're playing high stakes games. We're talking about, 18 months is the youngest that will release a barrel aged beer.
damn.
That's a long time. You know what I mean? So to go around and play, let's just see if this sticks and see if this works. And then also to have our consumers trust us enough to go, okay, we'll try this out and see that, hey, it might not be the best beer we've ever made in the barrel aged world, but if we don't keep trying these things, we can't make the best. And so we're thankful for our customer base that like stand by us. And yeah, we've had some misses, and we've also had some wildly successful, I'd argue some of the best barrel aged beers in the world coming out of here. But again, you have to have some of those misses to be able to have those victories. So
great point. Do you think that you get the same level of hype around your stouts than say maybe you would around the because obviously stouts do, particularly barrel aged stouts, have their own. It's obviously a little more specific than the hazy boys and stuff. But
yeah,
would you say they are they like people trying to trade them, people trying to get
yeah, we have quite that. Our last release, we released it's called a Medianoche Reserve, and that was a barrel-aged beer. It was aged for 20 months in, I believe it was Breckenridge bourbon barrels.
Oh, yeah, we went to that place.
Dope. With coconut, cacao nibs, and vanilla. And it sold out in less than 38 seconds online. So, yeah, we've Medianoche is kind of, it's definitely a different group, and it's definitely way more niche, but people look out for it. I mean, Starry Noche, one of our beers that we put out last year for our anniversary, is on Untapped's top 50 all-time greatest beers list. If you go on the highest rated beers, it's on there. So we've definitely put out beers that like demand its respect on what they are. But like I said, if you look at our daily lineups, we might have a Medianoche on tap here or there. But it's not, you don't really necessarily think of us when you think of, or you don't think of barrel-aged stout when you think of us necessarily. A lot of people think of hazy. And, at this point, we've kind of carved our own lane out in the fruited sour, not mixed firm, but, in the fruited sour lane. And I just think it's trying to get a bunch of different people looking at our beer differently. And maybe like, oh, I love IPA. And then you get a chance to try Medianoche. You're like, oh, maybe I do like barrel-aged stout, or vice versa. That's the kind of our biggest thing, is to just kind of open people's eyes to all styles of beer, whether it's something that's super sought after or super hyped, or it's just a classic style that all of us enjoyed at one point in our lives.
Right. So then the Medianoche is regularly available, say people just walk in, or is it kind of like the drops that go fast?
So for packaged in bottles, that's usually like once a month a drop. And it's usually online sales, taproom only, online only. Mm-hmm. Just because of right now with COVID, we can't really. We're not going to try to get a bunch of people to wait in line, and we're trying to keep everybody, our staff and our customers included, safe. That's the major importance to us. Beer is awesome, but I'd rather make sure that everyone and their family is safe than than anything else. So. We do have them on draft once in a while. Lately, we've been kind of trying to just be. If you come to the tap room and since right now in Colorado you kind of have to sit outside, we've been throwing a little bit more of them on draft, or having bottles to go, or our tap room staff will open up a bottle and kind of split it between a bunch of people at the tap room, just to kind of reward you for sitting outside in the cold. Like, I mean, I don't, it's just tough, but.
So you guys you can drink at the brewery? You can drink on the patio outside?
You can drink at the patio outside. We can have 25% indoor seating right now in Colorado.
Wow.
But for us, 25%, our tap room is not huge. So like 25% is like 3 tables with maybe 15 people max. So
Gotcha.
it's all outdoor seating. We've done a lot to improve our patio with tons of space heaters, tons of just tons of different ways of keeping people warm. But it's just kind of hard to ask for people to come, hey, leave your house and come sit on the outside, in the middle of winter.
No, totally. So, I'm more just sort of, I mean, there's that side for sure, particularly where you guys are at. But I guess because out here, I haven't been to a brewery in Montreal in almost a year. Like they're all, you can't drink inside, you can't have patio, you can't do anything here. It's all shut down. So it's always interesting to see like different places have the different rules. So now when anyone tells me that they can drink anywhere, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, it always trips me out. Thank you. We just got a comment here. Josh Butterworth, shouts to you, bro. He says, your Weldwerks YouTube video about Juicy Bits changed my homebrew. So you did.
Awesome.
Was that you personally, Skip? You did some...
I assume that was probably Neil, our head brewer. He's usually, when it comes to Juicy Bits, I mean, that was his kind of creation. So, we'll speak on certain parts of it, but when it comes to making that at home, he kind of always takes the reign on that.
Gotcha.
So
that's really cool. I like that he does that on top of putting the recipes out there, but obviously helping people like Josh get their stuff better. And Josh also said, I miss tap rooms, man. You know what? So do I, dude. It's the more you talk about it, the more, because I'm like, oh, whatever, it's fine. Still being able to get my hands on good beer, but now you mention it, you actually think about it, and particularly talking to you now and thinking back on, I couldn't even fathom going to a beer festival and having thousands of beer.
Oh no, I couldn't either, and it's been crazy for me because I've always been big on for us is traveling and going to festivals all over the country and talking to people and going to tap rooms and for me right now it's just been super weird. It's been almost a year since I've traveled, and part of me likes it, but then part of me goes like, man, I just can't. I don't know what I'm gonna be like when I go around people again.
Same, man. I feel like we're definitely gonna have an awkward period.
It's gonna be awkward, but also part of me is like, I might want to wear a mask just because I'm used to it now. Like, the day that I take a mask off, like I just don't. Right now it's fine because I'm in a room by myself, but as soon as I walk out of this room, I'll put my mask on. So it's just weird. It's become so second nature that part of me is like, well, and also drinking out of like a cup that someone else drank out of. That used to be a thing that was common.
Yeah, man.
And now I look at it like that's disgusting.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine.
I couldn't even imagine that.
We're at a festival. I'm like, oh man, you need to try this out of my glass. Everyone does that and shares glasses. What were we thinking?
Oh yeah. I don't know. And like literally, I'm like, that'll never happen. I mean, so back in the day when we did barrel tastings or any sort of tastings, we would literally just fill up a big cup and everyone would drink out of it. And now, because of COVID, we've switched to everyone has their own pours of everything, but it's just like wild to me because like I can't believe we used to do that. It seems so gross. It seems so gross.
Even just, dude, that's a great point. And even just as something as small as the way we shake hands and the way like, I could have just blown my nose and then, hey man, what's up? Like, like all of this stuff that it puts.
Didn't think about before, and all of a sudden now you're just like, this is absolutely kind of gross.
It's bonkers, and if you put that in context on the larger scale, it's something like a beer festival, GABF. You're indoors.
Oh, right.
There's literally 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people, and I don't know if anyone's sharing glasses as much because you literally get a sip, but like just that volume and people touching doors,
or just like even like just something like as weird as like, hey, maybe that one guy didn't wash his hands when he left the bathroom.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden he's handing a cup to somebody's hand, and all of a sudden this man who just it's disgusting to me now. It was something that didn't cross my mind that now is disgusting to me.
Were you a germaphobe pre-COVID?
I never thought about anything like that at all. I wouldn't even say I'm a germaphobe now, but I'm more conscious of it, I'd say.
I absolutely feel you. My partner and I, she's more of a germaphobe than I am. And so this is like, she's like, oh, I love it. I'm ready for this. Let's go. So I was always a little bit about it, but now I'm like, I feel the same as you. And I hope more people feel like that, just because my concern is that people don't take that serious enough.
Sure.
How many times did you see dudes leave the bathroom like over the years? I'm always mad conscious of it, and you see someone use the bathroom and public ones walk out. So like, I really hope that people are at least conscious of their
And it's
do you
such a
call it?
weird thing that
Hygiene.
you didn't like. I didn't look at it as like it's like disrespectful, but now I look at it as like it's almost disrespectful to not wash your hands after
Very
using the
much.
restroom. It's
Yeah.
wild.
I always thought
It's
it was
wild.
disrespectful because I've seen that meme where it's just sort of like shaking hands after not going to the bathroom is like putting your hands in each other's pants type of thing.
That's
Really like dick hands is the grossest thing I could probably think of. Like you
yeah.
don't want that.
Yeah.
Yeah, particularly
like I
when
said,
people are. It's
Go
man.
ahead.
Like I know, say like people are drunk at beer festivals, so they're extra careless.
Sure.
And you're meeting more and more people there, particularly someone like
And-
you, who's
yeah.
known in the
Right.
scene. You're seeing your friends. You've got
Sure.
drinkers coming up to you wanting to say hi,
Right.
and then imagine how many what you're touching.
I mean, it like I said, it's something that never crossed my mind until recently, and now I'm like, I don't know if I will be going back. If I have to use the bathroom in a porta potty, I probably just will have to not go.
No, honestly, I'm with you, man. Like, unless you bring your own sanitizer, which we probably would at that point.
Right, and I think at this point in my life, I will carry sanitizer.
Oh yeah,
just for that sake.
Yeah, 100%. I think we're all kind of used to it now. It's been almost a year, so we're kind of in our COVID routine. So it's going to be hard to ever break it. I don't think it'll ever be the same for sure.
Right.
Quick thing. This is I just wanted to point this out. This is just a beer that we just did this collab with a brewery called Love Dust. It's upside down because it's a glitter beer, which is why I'm sort of holding it up. Have you?
Oh
guys,
my gosh!
Okay, you can't really tell as much.
I can see it. I can see it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. We did it last year for Valentine's Day, so we're just releasing it. Have you guys played with glitter before?
You know, we have not. Not because I'm indifferent. I don't have any strong opinions against it or for it. I mean, I'm kind of the kind of person who looks at something like the way that the glitter beer looks in a glass is just fascinating to me.
Yeah.
So I can't hate on it. And also the big thing for me always in life is if it brings someone else joy, why should I hate on it? You know, who am I to go, that's stupid? You know, like I mean, it's just you know,
I feel that.
We live too short of a life to be like spending all my time being angry about something else. You know, I think we haven't done it. I don't think we ever will, but I will never poo-poo on glitter beer or any other beer to say that.
I respect it. To be honest, I came up with this idea for this collab and I pitched it because the owner's a friend and I was like hoping to piss off the purists a bit, those people that we're talking about who like hate lactose in beer and hate all this fun stuff. And I know it's ridiculous, but that was the point. And I felt that when we released it last year, it was the complete opposite. I'd never been so inundated with people wanting some, and the brewery put them on the map because they were new at the time. And like it's because it's entertaining, but I just thought more people would have been more angry about glitter beer. So.
I just think people who get angry about things that are happening in beer are just to me the worst kind of people, because it's just like, dude, just because you don't like it doesn't mean other people can't. And also try it, maybe you'll like it. For all I know, that is the best beer that I haven't been able to try just because I haven't been able to get my hands on. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like why? Like it's just it's so silly to me that people get so upset about things.
I agree. It's really ridiculous,
especially when it comes to beer.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
we're just getting drunk. Relax. It's really not that serious. Couple quick comments here. Brad is my brother. He just checked in. He's like, "Cheers, boys. Nice Love Dust champion." And Josh is asking you, Skip, what's your favorite collabs that you've done?
Favorite collabs. Oh man, that's a good question. So at Weldwerks, we do tons of collabs with people throughout all the country, all over the country. But I will say, not one of my Luke up at since you guys are in Canada. Luke over at Bellwoods. One of my favorite humans on earth. Love that guy to death. I was lucky enough to go brew a beer up with him in Canada.
You went to the Hafus Road Bellwoods facility, the one that's in like the industrial park. Yeah, nice.
The industrial park, and we brewed up there, and we put together with Patrick, and we put together a barrel-aged stout that's still resting in barrels, and I brewed the same recipe down here. I was able to get them some really, really cool bourbon barrels, and I'm super excited about that one to come out soon. I believe I spoke to Luke, I think in December, and they're getting ready to start looking at it, tasting it, and playing with it. It's been over a year now in barrels, so I'm super excited about that. Honestly, man, it's almost impossible to say what's my favorite club, just because it's such an awesome industry to work with. Just so many different people from all different walks of life, from all over the country, world. I was lucky enough at one point to hang out with people in Brussels and make beer in Brussels. It's just been crazy for me to look at my life and go like, I make beer for a living, and I've been able to just kind of see the not only the country but the world and hang out with people. So I'm gonna say the easy answer and be like, all of them are my favorite. Hanging out with new people, discussing new ideas, and putting together something cool is just always gonna be awesome to me.
I love that. Diplomatic. I like it there.
Yeah.
Do you have any collabs or anything fun coming up that you can talk about?
We just like I said, we were brewing with New Anthem today. We brewed a hazy IPA with them, which I'm super stoked on. Forager Brewing out of Rochester, Minnesota. James is a good friend of mine. James Higgs is going to be out here tomorrow, and we're brewing a barrel-aged stout with him. Trying to think. We got a lot of stuff in the works. Other half, we always hang out with those guys. Those are some of our really good friends. They're releasing one of our beers that they brewed up at their brewery. We're releasing one of their beers next week. We haven't announced it yet, so this is a exclusive. But we're going to be putting out Blueberry Crunchy. It's one of our original collabs that we brewed with them years ago that they brewed up in New York that we've never done out here. So we're putting that out here next week, and we put it in cans this morning. It's fantastic. But yeah, also California, Moxa in California. He's making crazy good barrel-aged beers. We've had beers in barrels with him for at this point. I pulled him out at 20 months. We're gonna drop that next month. And so yeah, I mean the big thing, like I said, it's just crazy to how many people we get to work with and how many like just absolute titans of the industry that we get to hang out with and just talk to and learn from. It's an awesome place to be.
That's great, man. All of that sounds amazing, by the way. That's really cool that you guys are redoing the collabs with other half both sides. That's what Bellwoods are just doing. I thought maybe yours was a part of that series. They're doing a series where they're redoing collabs where Luke, because he has the best life ever, and he just travels around doing collabs with
Luke has the best life ever. Luke, like I said, Luke is one of my favorite people in beer. I have tons of favorite people in beer. It depends on what day it is. But I will tell you, Luke, they are just an awesome brewery full of awesome people. And the first time I ever met Luke, we were in Nashville, and man, from that day on, we've been friends. And he came. I was at Black Project at the time, and he was signed to Shelton. We were both signed to Shelton at the same time. And he was like, "Hey, I'm going to come to your tasting," and he actually showed up because plenty of people tell you, I'm going to come do this. And he showed up, and then the next morning I see him, and he's like, "Hey, can I buy you a coffee? We need coffee." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't drink coffee usually," but I was like, I'll drink coffee. And just from that day on, we've been really good friends, and we keep in touch, and it's just been Luke has made it. Luke has made it.
He really has. Yeah,
he
must be pissed now because his whole life was just taking his family and traveling and making cool beer everywhere. And now he's stuck in it, poor guy.
Now he's stuck. I mean, that's how I feel right now. I mean, I'm not as cool as Luke, but that is how I feel right now.
None of us are as cool as Luke. God damn it.
No.
I'm conscious of the time because I know you do have to jet. But is there anything else that we want to touch on before we wrap her up? Do we feel like we kind of got everything out?
Honestly, I can always talk forever.
Yeah, I feel like we
even
can talk
if
about
I have somewhere to go.
Yeah.
I feel like So
I don't know.
I don't know. I guess I'm just excited for hopefully things to be able so we could actually hang out with people and drink beer again, and we could sit at a table in our beautiful barrel room and have you talk like this so we could drink it.
Oh man, tell me about it.
Be a lot more fun someday.
Oh, so much more fun. That was obviously why I was never reaching out to anybody to do this, because we never did this ever. It was only ever when we would go to places. So we were supposed to go to GABF, I think in 2019. I think I got sick and we couldn't go. So I was like, no, we'll go in 2020. And obviously that was a bust. But yeah, this is like the next best thing to doing that, but obviously not quite the same. So I'm definitely keen to get out there as soon as possible. But Skip, man, I really appreciate your time, brother. Where can everybody find?
Oh man,
Go on. Sorry, man. I cut you off.
Oh no, I was just gonna thank you for having me, man. It's been fun.
Pleasure. Genuine pleasure. We could talk all night for sure. Where could everybody find either you personally, if you want people to find you? If not, where can they find the brewery online?
The brewery, Facebook, Instagram at Weldwerks Brewing. Me personally, I'm only on Instagram at my username is skipthebeer11. Hopefully, if you live in the States, Tavor sells a lot of our beer. If you want to try some of our stuff and you've never heard of us, definitely check us out. And if you're by the brewery, just stop by and check us out because we're trying to make something for everybody.
I love it. I did have a question for those who might not be familiar with your stuff, or at least maybe not in Colorado. Do you ship beer, or is it just for pickup?
Just for pickup because of state legislation, we cannot ship beer.
Hence the Tavor thing.
Hopefully, okay. So Neil Fisher, our head brewer, is working on getting legislation changed so we can ship direct to consumer. Hopefully by the end of this year. So he's working on with governors and the Brewers Association to get that change, and our Colorado Brewers Guild to get that change in Colorado.
I love that. That's what I want to hear. There's nothing worse. We don't have it here either. You can't ship in Quebec. It's ridiculous. But you can in Ontario, where you were with Bellwoods in Toronto. You can ship there. Every brewery has a website, and they can get anything anywhere, but we can't do that here.
I don't see the laws, but I'm not a lawmaker, and I think that the people like Neil will be able to make the laws change for the better for all of us, hopefully.
I love it. I have no doubt. I just remember we need to do the thumbnail, so I'm going to take a screenshot of us. I'm going to do it while we're live. Do you want to hold up maybe the can you're drinking or something, or whatever you pickle, or if you got a Weldwerks can?
See me? Can you see? I don't have. I have a Weldwerks bottle. We drank this earlier, so I could hold it up with it.
So a bit of branding in
there.
Can you see it? Up. I can see it. You ready? Got it. Boom.
Cool.
So that is good. All right, let me wrap this up and just hang on to the call afterwards, and we'll let you go.
Yeah.
So guys, thank you so much for watching and listening. If you guys enjoyed the episode, smash the thumbs up, hit subscribe below, hit the notification bell so you know when the new drops. Follow us on social media at BAOS Podcast, which you can see right here. And we'll be back next Friday, I believe, 8 or 9 p.m. Stay tuned to the social. We'll see you then, guys. Cheers. Boom. All right, live people, thank you so much. We'll be back next week. Catch ya.